It's Sunday evening, and you are listening to another edition of the Giant Bomb Community Podcast. We have a slightly different show this week. There's only a few of us. Fat Mac is off in space somewhere. Alaska is in Mexico, contrary to what you might think. Joining me today is Ghost.
Fuck you. Sorry, that's all I got.
That's fine. That's appropriate. Back from a long absence is Atlas.
This is my funny introduction.
And from an equally long absence is Believer.
And I'm back.
So we thought we'd just talk about a lot of games that are not quite retro, but they're also not quite new, since new releases are kind of shallow this week. So, Ghost, what have you been playing?
I've played Call of Juarez Gunslinger, which is probably the only new thing any one of us played this week.
What do you think of it?
I think it's pretty great. I don't know, maybe I'm a sucker for Western games, books, films, etc., but I thought it was pretty good. And I'm probably one of the few people who played Call of Juarez, the first one, and Bound and Blood to completion, and I liked it. So I was actually kind of excited because Declan stopped with all this fucking stupid bullshit of the cartel and went back to its roots.
So there are no President Obama masks in this one, are there?
I hope maybe it's an unlockable.
That would be cool.
I had completely forgotten that this was a Techland game.
Yeah, I think they've all been Techland games, haven't they?
Yeah,
I think so.
Published by Ubisoft.
Cool.
It seems really weird to me, and this game was so not on my radar. It kind of seems, I don't know, it feels like Dead Island just came, or Riptide just came out. So the notion of them just dropping, I'm sure there are different divisions within Techland who work on this stuff. It just seems, I don't know, just like a strange release out of nowhere, which is a shame because from all intents and purposes, this seems like a pretty solid little downloadable game.
It's not a little.
Yeah, it seems like some of this, maybe towards the end of the life of the 360, they're starting to position Live Arcade as kind of like the straight to DVD movie avenue for games. You know what I mean?
I think that's a really good comparison, actually.
But I mean, does this feel like it should be a full release? Because I guess the cartel did not really sell in gangbuster numbers. Does this feel like it should be a full disc release, or does this just feel like kind of a bloated Live Arcade release?
I finished it, and I think that if given a few more levels, it could be a pretty good full price game. And right now, I don't know. It's maybe not bloated, but it's actually a good question. Like, I don't know. If I was a developer, I would sell it for $40.
I mean, does this feel more longer than, or not longer, but more like, I'm trying to think of a good word. Does it feel more substantial kind of than something like Blood Dragon?
I would say it's about the same kind of content. Yeah. Although there's a lot more replayability because you have like an EXP system, and there's New Game Plus, and there's an arcade mode where you just score points and that's it. So it's actually a pretty substantial product. So whoever buys it will probably have a lot of fun with it.
I guess I'll ask for you and Atlas, our European cast members. Do you feel like maybe around where you live, there's a lot of like drive for kind of old American West, like aesthetic and old American West kind of content in games, or do you feel like it's just kind of not going to really fly over there?
I don't know. I mean, Red Dead Redemption did really well here, as it did everywhere.
Yeah.
I don't really necessarily feel equipped to speak, for my nation here.
Oh no, you're now a representative of your nation, so the ears of millions are listening. So,
all right, I'll get the hotline to number 10 worked out immediately so that I can get the official statement. All I can say is that Once Upon a Time in the West, the Sergio Leone film with Charles Bronson and Henry Fonda, probably my favorite film of all time. And Red Dead Redemption is a top 10 game for me. Like I definitely appreciate the form of the Western. I think it's produced like some absolutely incredible films. I actually do really like the aesthetic, which is one of the reasons why I loved Red Dead Redemption, because it took such a loving approach in that sort of rockstar style to the genre. Yeah, I can't see any reason why Westerns wouldn't fly to a UK market. Not at all.
It feels like one of those things that people bring up a lot, which is, we see a million games that are like, gangsters and cops. We see a million games that are like cyborgs in space. But it seems like cowboys and Indians it doesn't really get, it seems like to be such an iconic part of American myth-making and American storytelling.
I think it's mostly because people have no idea what to do with the concept. Like the same thing was with the Vietnam War. Do you remember any Vietnam War game that was good?
Well, there was a Battlefield game.
Yeah, there was that Battlefield game.
But that was mostly that was just
it wasn't good.
It's also a case of on that one America got its ass kicked pretty hard, so it's
but like other periods in history are like better represented, etc. When it comes to Western and Poland, actually Westerns, I might be wrong on that, but I do believe that Westerns are pretty big in here. Like maybe not anymore, but they were definitely ingrained in our memory through the times where we were run by communists. So.
Yeah, the Western in itself.
My love for Westerns definitely came from my father. So, and that love had to come from something, considering that he grew up and lived most of his life in PRL, in the communist state of Poland. So,
yeah,
wow.
I think it generally is like the Western is in a pretty weird space at the moment. Like, basically, I can think of two marquee, like sort of actually it's actually kind of unusual. In the past 5 years, we've had True Grit and Django Unchained, two fairly high-profile westerns from like acclaimed directors. I feel like before then, like it was kind of Unforgiven, and then like No Country for Old Men, and in that sort of space that there was like just every now and then you'd get a decent. I thought the remake of 3:10 to Yuma was also a really good film.
Yeah. There's only as much as you can do with westerns. So, but but you had Deadwood in TV, and you have Hell on Wheels, a terrible show on AMC right now.
That is a terrible show indeed. That is no good.
I definitely remember a time before Red Dead Redemption came out when there were a lot of people saying, why has there not and will there ever be a great Western game? Now, obviously, Red Dead Redemption is not only a great Western game, but one of the greatest games of this generation, in my opinion. So that's a bit less of an argument now that we have had that sort of landmark moment, but it is kind of on its own now. Like,
I mean, the thing that I was thinking of, at the beginning of this, and I guess at the end of the last generation, you had a game called Gun, which I really feel like people hated that game, and like I played it, I beat it, I didn't think it was that bad. It was not anywhere close to the level of like a Red Dead Redemption, but I didn't think it was that bad, and it was really cool to, have that cool cowboys and Indian vibe, like... it's just so cool to see a not prehistoric, but a really, really old time before electricity represented in a digital format. I wish more games would kind of try and get out of their comfort zone in terms of aesthetics.
Yeah, I think...
Which is weird because like 3 games about westerns, which is Call of Juarez, came from Poland, so...
Yeah,
and the Hauser brothers who write the Rockstar games.
Exactly.
They're not,
they're technically not. They didn't technically written Red Dead Redemption.
Yeah, I think they're more office jobs now, but yeah.
No, they do write. I think they do have written GTA. They do write GTA, and they did write a substantial part of Max Payne 3, but Red Dead wasn't really their job.
Really?
It seems like it's a fairly difficult thing to do mechanically too, because for one, the guns then weren't really like they are now. You had to reload them often, and they didn't fire automatically I mean, you had some machine guns in Red Dead Redemption, but they were all mounted, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, they were basically like that game's turret sequences.
Yeah, but you
Yeah,
had rifles and shotguns and stuff in Red Dead.
Yeah, it's like they want to make it a shooter, and they have to make some. They feel like they have to make some. What's the word I'm looking for? Concessions in order to fit it into a shooter mold, and you can't exactly do that.
The one thing about westerns in general, though, is they really do like fetishize the gun as like an instrument of power and like a deadly, important, cool weapon. They really do fetishize guns.
I can say that Gunslinger does a very good job at being an entertaining shooter. And all it has is 3 types of revolvers, 2 types of rifles, and 2 types of shotguns. So
cool.
Right.
All right.
That's all there is.
And
the game is pretty cool. Like, it's really good. Maybe not amazing, but it's worth playing.
Is it a $20 deal or?
I don't remember.
It is $14.99 on Steam.
All right.
Ghost, is there a good reason why I should take my Call of Juarez Bound of Blood out of its shrink wrap and put it in my Xbox 360 and play that shit?
It's fun, although only if you play with race chapters, because Thomas's basically Thomas's chapters lose because they're more focused on shooting dudes in the face from a distance and stealthy shit, while Ray's is basically you are the gunslinger. You are a guy with 2 revolvers and you go nuts in a city with bad guys.
All right.
And I'm glad because Gunslinger is basically this. It's Bulletstorm in the Wild West with
a Western Bulletstorm.
Exactly.
Yeah,
that sounds amazing.
Yeah, that sounds exciting.
Well, they had cactuses in Bulletstorm, or cacti in the actual Bulletstorm, so you could you boot somebody into a cactus in slow motion. It's a game.
I still need to play Bulletstorm.
It's really cool. I actually really like Bulletstorm.
I feel like the first few hours of that game are kind of they make you roll your eyes pretty badly, but once you start to get interested in the characters, that game really takes off.
I thought it was really funny. Like, I laughed at the dialogue. I thought it was really funny.
Yeah, I did.
Ishii, he is my favorite character in games. The human that they had to half turn into a robot.
Yeah.
He's incredibly angry, but he lost the emotion part of his body, so he's in a ton of pain and incredibly angry, but he can't verbalize it in anything more than monotone robot voice. It's great. Oh, I love Ishii. Bring Ishii.
The comparison between Bulletstorm and Call of Juarez Gunslinger is actually apt because both kind of take Bulletstorm takes its inspiration from science fiction pulp stories, like this very shitty low grade sci-fi, while the entire backdrop for Gunslinger are Western legends, because the entire game is told the main character is recalling his story to bar patrons, and he's basically like Forrest Gump in the Wild West because he meets fucking everyone.
I saw that in the quick look. It looked really cool. How dynamic is it? If you're low on health and about to die, does he chime in and be like, "Oh, it was really hard then. I had to duck behind some barrels to save my life," or
No, it's not. No, it's not that severe. But he does comment on when you die, kind of in the same way Prince of Persia: The Sands of Time did it.
Cool.
When you die, when you die, he mentions that, and that entire thing was a real pickle, etc. And there's some cool moments with the narration. It does, I think, a much better job with its entire story within a story than Bastion did.
Cool. Well, I guess that's Call of Juarez Gunslinger.
Right.
Anything else you've been playing, or?
No, but I did see Star Trek Into Darkness.
And a quick not 1 second, but quick 1 minute review.
It's really good. In my opinion, it's much better than it's much better than the first one, and I love the first one. And I think they probably my most favorite part of that movie is that they give everyone a cool moment. Everyone of the main crew. The first one was kind of weird because it mostly focused on Spock, And this one also focuses on Spock a lot, but like every other character has like a cool moment. Like even like Scotty has a substantial role. Like Chekhov has cool stuff to do. Like Sulu has cool stuff to do, and I just think they really nailed the whole dynamic between the crew this time. And it's a really fun movie.
Cool.
Although,
I might go see that tomorrow. I'm going to the movies tomorrow.
Although if I had to raise something against it, is that there are two things. Like the first one is that they don't do like the first Star Trek did a great job with theme tune, like the way that leitmotif pops up at some points to enhance the action. Like, and this movie does not do as much as a good job as that one did, which is kind of sad. And the second part, like the ending, is it's not bad or anything, like but it's kind of abrupt in a way. It just kind of ends at some point, like it lacks a like the climax. The climax happens, and then there are 2 minutes, and the film ends, which I'm not really a big fan of. And yeah, but yeah, it's a great movie. It's a great movie. And when I walked out of the cinema, I've met one dude who said it was a cool movie, but it didn't do enough allusions and references to old Star Trek movies. I just wanted to kill that guy.
You should have. Atlas.
Because these people are the worst. These are the same people who want Final Fantasy VII to be remade.
Atlas.
For some reason, I thought we were going to go. For some reason, Star Trek came out earlier in the UK than it did in the States. So I've also seen it, and I really liked it. I have never seen I've seen like half of an episode of the TV show, specifically Next Generation. So I have no affinity for old Star Trek whatsoever. I did see the original film and liked it. I liked this film. I think, like Ghost, I liked it more. However, I have a slightly skewed perspective because one of the things that I thought was really impressive about the new one is just how strong the visual design is. And I saw this one at the cinema, whereas I saw Star Trek at home. So it naturally would be a little bit less impressive. I don't know. I'm kind of in a weird place about it because I didn't realize until I listened to Matt Rory and Alex Navarro on the podcast talking about the end of that film. It was only really then that I realized I was able to put my finger on, yeah, there was something kind of crappy about the last 20 minutes of that film. They actually really nailed some of the... they articulated some of my own thoughts about the end of that.
I'm not even talking about the last 20 minutes because I think the last 20 minutes are great. I'm talking like about the last 2 minutes. Exactly 2 minutes.
No, but specifically on the podcast, I don't know if you listen to it. It's obviously it's premium members. I would highly recommend it. Just for if nothing else, just Rory and Alex being together again. Just But yeah, the last I thought the whole. I don't really want to get into it because obviously, you know, if I go into the details of the ending, then we're getting into spoiler territory. I just think it kind of drags, and a lot of the stuff doesn't need to be there, and it sort of didn't end on the high that I wanted that film to end on, because I thought the first hour or so of it is absolutely brilliant. I think Simon Pegg does such an incredible job in those films. I'm a huge Simon Pegg fan. Both his films and his TV work. I'm kind of sad that this is the last time that J.J. Abrams gets to make a Star Trek film because it might be the end of me seeing Star Trek films. I don't know.
I bet he'll come back again.
No, he's coming back. I bet the fact that he's doing Star Wars does have no bearing on it.
Alright, I for some reason was under the impression that he was unlikely to come back and do Star Trek.
No, like he said, he will juggle the two of them.
Alright, it just maybe means that we'll... actually, I was about to say, I suppose it might mean we'll get a slightly longer wait, but then if I think about it, the original Star Trek was 2009, wasn't it? So
Yeah.
there has actually been a fairly substantial gap. Like, he did something else. Oh yeah, he did Super 8. That was a good film.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like Super 8.
By the
Anyway...
way, trivia. William Shatner will have a role in the new Star Wars.
Star Wars?
Yeah. He actually confirmed that Shatner himself actually confirmed that he will be in the new Star Wars in an episodic role because they
Yeah.
can't get him because in the obvious reason they can't get him into Star Trek.
Well, now that I'm nice and depressed, you got
Why?
any games you've been playing, Atlas?
Why?
Because I don't like. Just in general, I don't like franchise crossovers. You know.
No, it's not a crossover. It's just Shatner has a role. Like it's not Kirk arrives in Star Wars.
It could be like old Han Solo or something.
Oh my god, that would be awesome.
Yeah,
Oh,
when you think about it, that
oh.
might be all right.
I'm pretty sure Harrison Ford is old Han Solo at this point.
Yeah, but William Shatner as old Han Solo would be great.
I don't disagree. I certainly don't disagree.
God, I love William Shatner.
Did something happen?
Did we lose Atlas?
I think we should get William Shatner in his place on this podcast.
Can we? He'll probably do it. We just have to pay him. You know. Just
Dude, not even pay him.
Oh,
Like,
he'll probably do it.
not even pay him. Like Shatner's actually pretty big about the internet. Like he spends a lot of time on Reddit.
Does he spend a lot of time on Giant Bomb? Because
Now, what if you told him we were going to talk about Star Trek? I think he would be in.
I bet he would be.
Also, I could talk to him about Boston Legal because I love that TV show. I generally love William Shatner, so.
Girl, you know I can't tell you lies. That's a minefield of deep emotion. I'll just look right into your eyes, light the fuse and start a love explosion. Girl, you know I can't.
And we're back. That's somebody farting. That's a ghost farting. Apparently, Atlas has disappeared back to
Ghost
the
fart.
bottom of the sea. It's home in
Ghost
Radford. Ghost fart.
I wonder if a ghost farted, would I smell it? Would I be able to smell it?
Maybe it would only you need one of those UV cameras, you know.
I bet this is a joke that was made in Ghost Dad.
No, Ghost Dad had Bill Cosby. He wouldn't do that. All right. Well, Atlas appears to have stepped out for an indeterminate amount of time. Justin Believer, what you got?
I've played some Tomb Raider and some 3DS stuff.
I played Tomb Raider, and I think it is a phenomenal. Well, maybe phenomenal is a strong word, but it is a very good game.
It is.
Yeah, it's probably the best action movie I've played all year.
That's a good way of putting it.
I just wish it was written by someone better.
Yeah, the writing isn't. I feel like it fits pretty well most of the time. I mean, I'm not really taking the game super seriously, at least not as seriously as the game wants me to. But I'm having a lot of fun playing
It's just not on par with Uncharted writing.
I don't know. I don't think the writing was. I don't really think there's a whole lot of real problems with that game. The biggest problem I had was the kind of the environmental cues about how to navigate the environment are so in your face.
Yeah,
it's kind of distracting, kind of.
My problems with it mostly came from the fact that I hate Rihanna Pratchett and I don't like the way they write Lara because it's just really half-assed in my opinion.
I mean, are you talking about the dialogue or more the sequencing of the scripted sequences?
I'm just talking about her entire arc because it's just so fucked that it doesn't work. I don't think it accomplishes what they wanted to accomplish.
I don't know. I think I don't know. I don't know if it necessarily made me feel, the whole thing was we want you to feel sympathy for her. We want you to feel like she's weak. I don't know that I ever felt that because she's a video game character. She can't be weak. At the end of the ending of the story before you even start it. She's not going to die halfway through. Although that would be an awesome idea for the next Tomb Raider game. But you can have that one for free, Square Enix.
Spoilers.
But I mean, go ahead.
She's she just comes across as invincible most of the time, especially
Exactly.
Like,
That's my problem.
the first like 10 minutes of the game, she falls on that spike.
Yeah,
That they showed in like every freaking trailer throughout the entire advertising of the game.
It's like,
and then
first of all, that should have killed you. You should have died in shock. You shouldn't have been able to move. But if you got through that, you should die of internal bleeding because that obviously went through important organs. And failing that, you probably should have died of sepsis because that was a really rusty, dirty spike, right?
Not to mention that she steps in a bear trap about 2 hours in.
Oh God!
And then walks it off after about 2 steps and goes, "I'm fine. Let's go kill some more motherfuckers."
My problem with that, with the writing of that game, is that they tried really hard to play up the entire Lara is becoming a survivor, and shit, and no.
She clearly already had some training there.
Exactly. This is my problem. They made her way too capable for that arc to work. Because she isn't some sea mouse suddenly arriving in a jungle and learning how to survive. No, she knows survival skills. She climbed mountains and shit. The only threshold she has to pass is shooting a guy in the face.
She gets over that pretty quick too.
Exactly.
Yeah,
and,
but once you get past that, and it's not difficult to get past that. I feel like most of the rest of the game and story, well, most of the game holds up really, really well, and the story, it works. I mean, it hasn't made me roll my eyes or
no, me too. I just think it's a wasted opportunity.
I think that some of the sequences, especially the one that comes to mind, is when you're climbing that radio tower, and you get to the top, and the camera does a little swirl around. It really does give you a moment of that's an accomplishment. It's an accomplishment more than just shooting 100 dudes in the face. I thought the writing of the sequences and the way it was paced was pretty good. I mean, that's what I thought. I don't know.
Yeah. Getting down to the actual gunplay, I like that a lot better than Uncharted. I like the game least when it's trying to have Uncharted set pieces, and I have this problem with Uncharted 2. I keep dying. I'll do a part, and the game I figure out what the game wants me to do the second after I have time to do it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
I agree.
Uncharted has.
Yeah. I enjoyed Uncharted the second time when I played it on hard because I knew it was coming and I could have my experience basically.
Yeah.
And I do believe that the shooting is better because the enemies are not bullet sponges. Although I enjoyed the Uncharted's gunplay.
The actual gunplay stuff is really what makes the game for me.
The particularly the melee kills with that axe just seem really brutal. I mean, it really seems like a girl like her in her position should not be quite so okay with just taking breaking someone's face open with a metal axe 2 feet in front of her head. It seems like that should startle her a little bit. You know what I mean?
They should do what Far Cry 3 did.
Yeah.
At least someone should call her out on the fact that, lady, you are way too fucking crazy with that axe.
She sticks arrows through dudes' knees. And
exactly.
Around and just
a bunch of times, not just once, a bunch. I don't know.
Whatever you can say about Far Cry 3, at least that game had that moment when, there's a moment you are I think it's straight after you escape with your girlfriend, you're shooting at a ton of dudes and the main character's all jumping around and laughing and shit, and his girlfriend is really freaked out. They missed that moment in Tomb Raider.
Yeah.
Some characters should have said that, what the fuck is wrong with you?
What'd you think of that sniper sequence on the bridge?
It was all right.
That was kind of the standout moment of that game for me, because that one did make it seem like she was not okay with seeing that much blood and guts being spilled in front of her.
Yeah, but then a few hours later, I haven't actually seen the game yet. A few hours later, she falls into that freaking river of blood, and even as a guy who really likes something like Doom, that was really messed up.
Did you ever see The Descent?
Yeah, that's basically
no. Yeah, I get that.
That game really references that movie a lot.
Twice, from what I understand. The beginning when she comes out of the cave, and then
Yeah.
and then the blood.
The thing that I think really Tomb Raider did do well, and it sounds like I liked it probably more than most of you guys. But the thing that I think it really did do well is if you wanted to focus, first of all, the platforming is remarkably good for a third-person action adventure game. If you wanted to focus on the platforming, you had all those tombs off to the side that were like optional, but were really kind of puzzly platformy kind of stuff. If you wanted to focus on the combat, there was plenty of that. If you wanted to like focus on exploration and like looking at the cool environments, there was tons of collectibles. There's really too many collectibles.
Yeah. On that note, like the platforming with the keyboard and mouse, I was originally going to use it to do it with a controller, but with the keyboard and mouse, it's great. I always thought a platformer wouldn't control right with a keyboard and mouse.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
It works well.
The controls are pretty good and responsive.
Yeah.
I was gonna say about like the strongest moment, in my opinion, like, and also a bit about the story. Like, to me, I wish there are two scenes I think really talk about what this Lara is, and it's first of all, the scene where she waddles through that pool of blood, and B, the sequence where she gets a grenade launcher.
Yeah.
And she just runs around and screams that, I have a grenade launcher, let's get the fuck out.
Yeah.
Like, I think that, because I thought that moment was great because it really plays out the entire what this Lara is about, and it's her crazy dog determination.
Yeah.
Like, I think they should have played the fact that she just doesn't fucking stop ever. Like, she doesn't give a shit about the fact that she's in a pool of blood anymore. And I think they should play up that thing a lot more. That she's just incapable of stopping.
I forgot
the grenade part.
I forgot about the grenade launcher part, though.
That was pretty cool. That was one of my favorite
I think it was
parts.
great. It was a really empowering moment.
Yeah, you blow open the door and then just keep blowing people up with a grenade launcher and knock a turret out or two.
I mean, I guess if any of us actually did pick up a grenade launcher, we would feel pretty fucking empowered.
Well, I mean, I probably would have died on the boat.
No, I mean in real life. Like if you just happened to pick up a loaded grenade launcher, there would have been at least like one person's car that you would have been like, you know what, buddy? Nah, today is not your lucky day.
It's a bad day.
Yeah. Yeah. Tomb Raider.
Good game.
Good game.
It was like $13 on Green Man Gaming. If you have a PC, buy that.
That game sold like 4 million copies, and they said it was disappointing sales.
That's bull crap.
That's horrible. That is bad news for video games in general.
Yeah.
I think that Square Enix either wanting to make up for sales that they didn't get, particularly Final Fantasy 14's.
I just think that the budget had to be so bloated that they just couldn't recuperate.
Yeah, but I mean, you can't reasonably expect like any game except for like Grand Theft Auto and Call of Duty to sell more. You can't reasonably expect that.
Yeah, but this is the exact same thing that happened with Kingdoms of Amalur.
Yeah, well, there was a lot more.
Yeah, I guess that's a slightly different situation. But.
Yeah, but
Dead Space 3 has the same situation.
Yeah, but most of the reasons why, like Amalur was, but Dead Space is a part of a revered franchise, and Kingdoms of Amalur was a new IP, and it did actually extremely well, but it just wasn't enough due to a bloated budget.
Yeah, but they didn't. They picked up another game. Like you're talking about Reckoning, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, Reckoning was made like by a whole other studio that closed down, and they picked it up. Like, I don't know. It doesn't seem like when they started writing the budget for the Project Copernicus that they had Reckoning in mind as a stopgap cash flow, which is obviously what that turned into.
I just think that the problem with the industry, like I'm no insider, etc., but I just think is that people simply do not know how to control their budgets. I mean, if a game like Red Dead Redemption can be that game came out that game was in the works for a long fucking time. That game never got ported to the PC, because apparently the code is so fucked. They would have to rewrite the entire thing and then try to port it to the PC, you know. And that game sold about 4 million copies and managed to make a profit for Rockstar. So I guess it just boils down to how well you manage the budget of the game.
Yeah. Real quick, while we're on a half-second break, is Atlas actually back, or?
Atlas, you back?
Because I see his picture.
Yeah, he said he should be here, but he didn't want to talk in case of interrupting a stream of thought. All right, he's back.
All right. Now that we mentioned Amalur, didn't you play that?
You know, I was not running a timer on this. This is going to be really shitty to edit for Nix, but whatever.
Yeah, I'm incredibly apologetic about my dip. I don't know if it was mid-sentence or whatever, but
begin apologizing.
Yeah,
we got the word rap out.
Yeah,
and then it dropped out.
I don't know. But the reason why I wasn't on at all last week, I wanted to be, but my internet was literally down for 5 hours. It came out, but it's kind of been a little bit spotty this week. But we should be all right.
All right. I guess I'll introduce you back in.
All right.
And joining us back from Rapture is Atlas. Atlas, you back?
I am back. I have many tales to tell. These plasmids are pretty cool, you guys. It's the next big thing.
Atlas, would you kindly not leave again?
Well, just tell that to my fucking internet router is all I can say.
Internet, would you kindly not disconnect?
Xbox, keep Atlas. So the last thing we heard you talking about was William Shatner rapping. So we will just we will let our mind's eye decide what it was you were trying to talk about. We don't need.
That sounds about right.
It's probably, yeah. So other than that, what games you been playing?
I have been playing Kingdoms of Amalur Reckoning. Thank you for asking.
What a wonderful segue.
Yeah, it's I'm not going to talk a lot about it because when I was on 3 weeks ago, I actually got to spend a fair amount of time talking about it. My opinions on the game have definitely changed to some extent because I was about 12 hours in at that point. I'm now 50 hours in. I can definitely see how the criticisms are. A lot of that game is, full and bloated of stuff that isn't particularly fun to do. At the same time, I have now finished several of the quest lines, including the House of Ballads and like the equivalent of the Mages Guild, and I'm a little bit further in the story. And I think that game's cool. I think I said that I liked the game before, but what I actually ended up talking about it was pretty much negative and pretty much saying how it tried to have the openness and the sort of the wanderlust and exploration of an Elder Scrolls game, but failed. I actually think that I probably sold the game a little bit short before. I think I like it quite a bit actually.
Are you playing it on hard? Because I played about 10 hours of it, and I remember a common complaint was that it was too easy.
Yeah,
on hard.
I got a very good tip from Ghost. I put it on hard after about 90 minutes, so I've played through almost the entirety of the game on hard. And sorry, I just want to cut in. Yeah, do we want to? I think Ghost is leaving.
Yeah, just finish what you're talking about, and then we'll say goodbye to Ghost.
All right, sorry. 5, 4, 3. Damn it, you screwed me up, man. Yeah. Yeah, that game does have some scaling issues. There is definitely... so one of the things I actually thought was pretty cool was that in going between sort of one of the larger sort of sectioned off like hub areas, because there's a few in the game, it's almost a bit like it's an open world, but it's sectioned off into these like smaller open worlds, if that makes any sense. Like there's like a specific loading screen between them. Anyway,
it's segmented.
It's segmented. Yeah, that's a good word for it. And so a lot of the stuff in the game levels depend. The enemies and the level of them is dependent on what level you were at when you first entered them. So the first time you enter these hub worlds, like it's level appropriate, and then by the end, like you're just killing everything in one shot with the longbow because the longbow is the best weapon in the game. Yeah, and there was actually one problem where I transitioned to a larger area, and it seemed like the enemies didn't scale, and it's kind of, I don't know, my last 5 hours with it have been a little bit of a breeze. That game, even on hard, once you get a handle on the combat and work out which weapons you like to use, which in my case is Beyblades and longbows, and magic, and I've been working that as my as my
Chakrams.
Yeah, I kind of like the effects of the chakrams. I just don't like using them that much. I don't think they're super fun to use. They are pretty effective though, and daggers the same way. I think daggers are a super viable way to play that game. I just don't think they're particularly fun. I prefer the Beyblades just because the animation is so much crazier, just spinning around with these discs. I don't know.
I don't know. Throwing those chakrams was pretty fun when I played it. I can't think of any other fantasy game where you could throw glowing discs around and have them return to you like yo-yos.
Yeah, it's definitely a cool look.
Part of enjoying the chakrams for me was that I deliberately played the game the way to actually use these weapons effectively. Because my problem with Amalur was that I had to play in a specific way to have fun.
I think I might be the same way, but my specific way is different. Because I tried switching up weapons, I tried going with chakrams and scepters for a while, and I just wasn't having as much fun as I was with
I'm not even saying in that way. I just had to limit myself a bit when I was playing Amalur.
Yeah, okay.
Because if at some point you can just fucking mash yourself through that game.
I actually have
because the difficulty is so fucked.
Yeah, it is. I actually have one sort of relatively minor complaint. Why the fuck is there no spear in this game? Like enemies. This is a general video game thing. Like the only like fantasy melee combat game that I can think of that has spears is the Souls games. Like why are they so rare? Like, did Morrowind have spears? Well, why did they take them out for the 2 Elder Scrolls games that I actually played then?
Because they didn't want to animate spears.
I guess maybe animation.
It doesn't seem like a
money.
spear needs a lot of animation. It just kind of stands. It doesn't. I mean, it moves through space, but it doesn't like change shape or anything.
I guess with the spear it's more of a stabbing motion, and all the animations. Like in Morrowind, have any of you played Morrowind?
I played it briefly on the original Xbox.
Yeah, when you push the attack button instead of swinging the sword across the screen. It's a really bad animation. Actually, he leans forward and stabs it forward with a spear. You're usually I'm not a weapons expert, but I imagine with a spear, most of the time you're stabbing. So imagine that the animation for stabbing with a spear wasn't that much different than stabbing with a knife or a sword or whatever.
And I suppose the thing is with Morrowind to Oblivion, they made the transition from it being like more of a dice roll combat system in Morrowind to literally being an action RPG, if you want to use that weird term to describe it, I suppose, with Oblivion. Yeah. So I
think that if for spears to work, the combat in the Elder Scrolls should not suck. Like that's the first thing they should do.
I don't think the combat in those games suck.
Yeah, I like the combat.
I don't love it.
I'm sorry for you.
It's not the reason to play those games, but I don't know. I like it enough. But yeah,
the only thing I liked about the combat in Skyrim was the bow, because that's the only thing that fucking works.
Well, in Skyrim, I tended to use like magic in the left hand and the sword in the right hand. I was throwing fireballs at people that were farther away and swinging a sword at people that were closer, and I don't know. I feel like I didn't see many people talk about fighting that way or whatever.
We need to take a quick break. Ghost needs to go do some work with dogs for his upcoming role in Call of Duty. So, Ghost, good luck with those dogs, man.
I need to moke up some fuckers.
Be careful.
Have fun in Dog City.
See you later.
I simply need to mocap that sex scene that's going to happen.
Ooh, breaking news.
Is it are you sexing with you or sexing with dogs or sexing with you and dogs?
Yeah, I don't like the implication of what's going on here. I think we might need to get the animal rescue services on this.
We'll put the.
You're gonna have to play the game.
All right, go. See you later, bud.
Yo.
Will the game have dog fucking multiplayer?
I am not allowed
like-
to comment about DLC.
See you later, Ghost.
See you later, bud.
Yo.
It's gonna be a hot dog food mod.
All right, back to Amalur. I have not played this game, so you guys are going to go at it.
I was kind of done with talking about Amalur.
There's not a ton more to talk about.
That game is big and not necessarily fun to do everything that they've given you to do in that world. It has some good writing, and I'm more invested in the main story than I was at the start because I kind of thought it was pretty lame. But it's taken some interesting turns, and I think some of the writing for the side stuff is also okay. I think some of the House of Ballads stuff was pretty good. I think the Scholia Arcana stuff wasn't particularly fun though.
Do either of you, having played either some or all of this game, feel like there was any chance for the big MMO project? Like, does the fiction, does the world, does any of it appeal? Would any of it appeal to you in a big MMO setting?
I think they had a really.
Go ahead.
If I were to get an MMO, it would be Guild Wars 2, and that's the only one I've ever really had any interest in getting. I've never really played one, so I can't say. I probably wouldn't get into it though.
Yeah, I think from a world perspective, they had an interesting idea. I think, like, that the art style in the game is, like, I don't know if that was going to be the art style for Copernicus, but it's sort of, goofy and sort of non-realistic in a kind of World of Warcraft way. So if you actually had that in an MMO, I think it would come across as even more WoW derivative. I think in some respects the quest system of Kingdoms of Amalur is very MMO based. There are literally some quests that is like, hey, I need to fill up these vials with monster blood, so go kill specific numbers of these specific enemies. And I'm like, really? In a single player game?
Those are the quests you do not want to do.
I worked that out about 25 hours into the game.
I remember listening to the podcast where Jeff, I believe it was, the Giant Bombcast, where Jeff talked about this. His advice was to do the main house quest and then do the actual main quest and don't do anything else in the game. And that's I only played about 10 hours of it, but that was the path I was going to go along.
Yeah, I kind of can't do that just because of the way I play games. I've actually found it fairly difficult to see a guy with a quest marker over his head, go and ask him what his quest is, and then say, no, I'm not interested, it sounds boring. I've actually struggled with that. Cause
you feel bad for him. He's like, man, this guy needs my help. He's just, just standing here with this exclamation point over his head all day.
He seems like exactly the same amount of a stand-up guy as everybody else that I've walked up to, but just because he doesn't, the description for his quest doesn't quite tick the boxes that I want ticked to do this. I don't know. It's a weird thing, and it's been a weird balance in that. But the way I like to play the way I played Skyrim definitely was that I spent a lot of time in one specific area and did everything there was to do in that area and all the little quests I could find, and then moved on repeat. I didn't go to some. There's a city in the far north. It's between. It's to the east of Solitude. I don't remember what it's called, but it's where the museum is. I didn't go to that city until I played
Dawnstar.
Dawnstar, thank you. I didn't go to Dawnstar until about the 100-hour mark of that game.
I have not been to the southwest part of Skyrim. I've played that game
really?
I've been there. Falkreath, I
sh-
think is the name of it.
That's a
I've
shame.
been there.
Yeah, that's a shame because there's some fun stuff that happens in Falkreath. There is a good Daedric quest around that area. If I remember.
Yeah, I've been there. I did the Dark Brotherhood, so I've been there. I just haven't spent much time there. And I didn't actually go there until the 75 or 80-hour mark.
Yeah. So Kingdoms of Amalur is definitely that kind of game where you come into a new area and you look on the map. Well, you sort of have to move in the world to reveal the map a little bit, but once you do, you see the guys with quest markers. And yeah, I've been going up and asking them, basically, give me the short version. Is your quest interesting? And if not, I tell them fuck.
Is your quest interesting?
I would. I just pick.
Well, it's interesting to me. I mean, I need to fill up these vials. They're just sitting here. I gotta get this monster blood. I'm pretty interested in it. I don't know what your problem is, asshole.
Literally no one else in this world is capable of doing anything except you.
Well, that's the RPG problem, isn't it? You walk into a town,
Yeah.
everybody's feet are held down by cinder blocks. At least, I mean,
Yeah.
not to go back to Skyrim again, but at least in that game, people were doing stuff.
I do need to go back to Skyrim. I played 200 hours of that game and haven't beaten the main quest.
The main quest is actually really good. That doesn't get talked about enough in those games, or at least not in Skyrim. The main quest I actually really like in Skyrim.
I like the ending.
Yeah.
It was fairly deserved that it wasn't talked about a lot in Oblivion, because the main quest in Oblivion wasn't that good.
I even thought some of those missions were good. When you climb up that mountain to go to the church where the Daedrics are all coming in through that portal and the sky gets all red the further you walk up that path, and all the guys are standing up there with their swords and shields out. I don't know. I thought there were some good missions in that.
Some parts are alright. It's just too much the Oblivion gates.
Yeah. Yeah, the Battle of Bruma was the one interesting. That and the first of because the first time you do it, it's very sort of out of left field and impressive, and well, it was all over the trailers, obviously. But if you, so it wasn't a great big surprise. But there was some fun stuff. The ending wasn't that great. But anyway, that game is 6 years old, so whatever.
Yeah.
I still play Oblivion. I still like Oblivion.
I put about 80 hours into Oblivion just before Skyrim came out. I have a very difficult time in my head trying to work out whether Oblivion or Skyrim is my favorite game of all time, but it's one of the two.
Like the latter three Elder Scrolls games, I can name some things I really like about all three of them, and I can name some things I really dislike about all three of them.
Yeah, sure. I think if I was, I think it's interesting how sort of how passionately some people talk about Morrowind as like a high watermark for the series, and I think if I was actively playing like deep RPGs on the PC, or if I owned an Xbox original, Xbox retro, whatever, whatever we
I like Xbox Retro. That's good.
Whatever we have to call it now that they've announced the X-Bone.
The retro. I was gonna say retro Xbox. Retroxbox.
Retro Xbox.
I don't think there's any way you're trying to make it 2 syllables, and I don't think there's any way that it's gonna get there.
Yeah. All right. Anyway,
Wretched box. That just sounds unseemly.
Well,
Never mind.
It looks unseemly. So
Yeah. It looks like someone inhaled vomit. Kingdoms of Amalur is a video game.
Well, this is kind of the problem. Like, this is the open world version of the Uncanny Valley, right? Like, the more stuff you put in there to do, like the more tasks and different little corners you can fill up with stuff, the more it becomes obvious, like, the parts that are still just a very video gamey, right? Like, the more stuff you put in there to do, the more you notice the stuff that should be in there that you can't do.
It's not the biggest problem with Amalur, but it's definitely a problem that exists if you think a little bit too hard about any of those open world games. I mean, even it doesn't have to be like fantasy RPGs. You could say the same thing about the Rockstar games, I suppose.
I think that's one of the things that I haven't played tons of Morrowind, but I think that's one of the things that it kind of started doing right. You don't have quest markers. You walk up to somebody and you get and you get their quest. You don't have exclamation points or anything like that. You get their quest, and you have it in your journal. You have to go search things out yourself. Morrowind's actual gameplay sucks. I'm not gonna cover that one up at all. It's terrible. It's atrocious. But
you know what it is? It's a holdover from the really old days of the first Elder Scrolls games.
Yeah.
But the quest design and the interesting parts are just going places. You have the stuff in your journal, and you got to go figure it out. You got to go find something yourself. One of the early quests in the Fighters Guild is go kill these egg poachers in this egg mine. Don't ask. Morrowind is weird about that. There is an egg mine.
Isn't an egg mine just a chicken?
I don't really know. But you have to go find it. It says go south along this river until you find it, and that's recorded in your journal. In Oblivion and Skyrim and believe Amalur had quest markers too. You have to. There's just a quest marker. It's on your map. You run there, you do the thing, and then you come back.
Amalur doesn't only have quest markers for the active quest that you're doing, but if you pull up the local map, you can see the yellow marker that indicates where the quest that you currently have active is, and then you get little white markers for every other quest that is in the area that you don't have active. So you can literally just look at that map and say, okay, I've got to go here, 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 and then here. Like you can draw a virtual line with your mind's eye.
There's something to say, like, for ease of use.
Yeah.
Morrowind is a game where if you put the time into it, it can be really rewarding to go find that stuff and to go learn about the world and the lore and the stuff. It's just you have to get past the aged graphics. You have to get past the slow walking speed. You have to get past the terrible combat. It's a hard game to get into.
Yeah. I have tried to go back and play Morrowind based on my extreme Oblivion fandom, and it hasn't worked. Like, I just can't. I mean, I'm also not particularly proficient in modding games, so I haven't been able to work out how to get all the mods that makes that game a little bit more appealing to the eye. In 2013, that game is, I think, 10 years old now. 2003, maybe.
Yeah, and it didn't look great when it came out either.
No, it certainly didn't. My main experience of Morrowind is actually watching the incomparable Dave Snyder on the Elder Scrolls marathon that preceded the Greg Kasavin Skyrim marathon, and he pretty much.
Seen that. So I've seen that several times. That is a very interesting piece of content we have.
He said a lot of the same things that you were saying, Believer. That the appealing thing about that game is just how not having a quest marker opens up exploration. At the same time, though, there was at least one instance where he went literally back and forth the same place 5 times because he didn't select the correct option to move the quest along. So it was a little bit obtuse in that stuff in a way that is not. It wouldn't happen today for sure.
For me, it's the dice roll combat that is just really so unsatisfying.
I found a mod for that, actually. I found a mod that makes you hit every time. It makes it ridiculously easy.
I bet it does.
That is way better than swinging a sword 10 times and not hitting a freaking slug on the ground or whatever. I was like, whatever, let me kill it and move on.
Are you sure I didn't hit it? Because it really looks like I hit it. Like, I saw the sword collide with it. I really think I hit it.
Well, I don't even think there's a collision animation. The sword doesn't even really seem to hit anything.
Yeah.
At least in Oblivion and Skyrim, you feel like you hit something. Even if the ragdoll looks stupid.
The only cue that you've actually made contact based on what I saw, of Dave playing it, was just the audio cue. Was just you get a different sound effect play when you actually hit.
You get an audio cue and you get a splurt of, like, really crappy looking blood. And you see a health icon in the bottom left corner that goes down.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
So,
well, Atlas, what have you been doing? Any more Crusader Kings 2? What's going on in your quest for European domination?
So, ask me next week, because this Tuesday is when the newest expansion for Crusader Kings 2 comes out. And deliberately, because I knew it was coming out, I haven't actually been playing any Crusader Kings 2, because I'd kind of played a fair amount of that game in previous months anyway, so I was kind of maybe getting a little bit burnt out. It's going to pick right back up again with the new expansion. Believe me in that. But in absence of playing Crusader Kings 2, I have been playing playing more of a game that you can, in a way, describe as somewhat similar, which is I've got back into Civilization 5 a bit.
Civ 5.
Yeah,
I want to play that at some point. I haven't gotten a hold of it yet.
You definitely. I think Civ 5 is a game that everybody should play.
Well, turn-based strategy isn't exactly my forte, so that's part of why I haven't gotten into it yet.
Do you mean turn-based strategy in terms of in terms of the 4X type, or are you specifically saying like turn-based combat isn't so, like could you play an XCOM or something, or Fire Emblem or something like that?
I've played XCOM and Fire Emblem. I've actually been playing some Fire Emblem Awakening.
Yeah.
4X, but those games, I don't want to say it's something I'm bad at. It's something I'm only just now learning, and I'm still learning it. I don't know exactly how complex Civ 5 is, but from what I understand, there's a fair amount more to it than controlling 4 people in XCOM or like 10 in Fire Emblem Awakening.
But I guess what's your specifically to Atlas, but you can jump into if you want to believe it. What's your history with the Civilization series? Because Civilization 3 is one of my favorite games ever, and like that, not a lot of people like point that out as their favorite, but I really think that's one of my favorite games ever. I played a little bit of 4, but I didn't like Revolution at all.
Okay.
So what's your history with the series, or what's your standing on the series?
My history with the series is very it's kind of new to me, because actually the first game in the series that I did play was Civilization Revolution. Which was a dumbed down console version, and if you have played Civilization before, that doesn't work. I have tried to play Civilization Revolution having played a lot of Civ 5, and it does nothing for me.
Yeah.
But there was a time when I thought Civ Rev was the absolute boss. Like, that game was really, really cool in the way that it took that down to a smaller scale. It gave you a lot of the same, like, goals and a lot of the same reward for your patience and your diligence and your strategies working out. It just shrunk it down in a way that you can put it not only on a console but on a handheld console, because I think the DS version of Civ Rev is awesome. I think having Civ Rev on the go, I think the iOS version is also pretty good. I think actually they did as good a job as you could do having a version of Civ Rev that you could play on a bus. Which is crazy to think about making, going from Civ 4 to having a version that you could play on the bus. And I know that's why, hardcore Civ fans didn't like it. But for me, from where I was, it was a great introduction for the series, and I tried to play a little bit of 4, didn't get deep into it, got super deep into Civ 5 when it came out, played an absolute ton of it, got way back into it last year when Gods and Kings came out, and I've been playing a bit of it recently, but I'm also going to get way back into it in the summer when Brave New World, the new expansion, comes out.
Wouldn't the touchscreen on the DS help alleviate at least some of the problems with only having a few buttons to control stuff?
Yeah, no,
I played Revolution on my iPhone, and
I could see how that would be a terrible experience.
It's really not. It's basically the exact same game with just basically 8-bit quality graphics. I mean, it really is mostly the exact same game. I've played it on my 360 too. The platform is not the problem with that game. The problem with that game is there's such a narrow range of stuff to do.
Yeah, I'll admit that. But again, at the same time, that's kind of the point. Kind of the point of it was to have a shrunk down. I like to think of it as just a shrunk down version of that game that was accessible for consoles, playable with a gamepad or a handheld or a touchscreen. And I think they made a lot of smart compromises. I think that a part of the core of the Civilization experience is that it makes no compromises. Or maybe you can make an argument that they did make compromises with Civ 5, which is why a lot of people were able to get into it that didn't manage to get into previous iterations of the series.
Was it compromises, or was it like getting rid of something that was like completely unnecessary?
I think they got rid of stuff that, at least in Revolutions, I have not played Civilization 5, but I have played 3 and 4 and Revolution, and no, I think they got rid of important, interesting, fun stuff in Revolution.
Yeah, I mean, they made one of the biggest, I suppose, in hindsight, it's a problem. At the time I accepted it, is that you can only set a city to either collect science or to collect gold.
Yeah,
and that's kind of dumb. Like it's a compromise, and it means that you build libraries and universities in one city and markets and banks in another, and it worked. For the context of that game, it's absolutely takes something that is core away from the Civilization experience.
But it doesn't give you that sense of these cities have their own individual thing going on. They're just much more nakedly like production centers.
I think it did a little bit more for me in terms of just the personality of it. Again, this was a while ago, but yeah, I mean, it was like a Civ Rev game is 2 hours Whereas, most games of, for me, most games of Civilization 5, I mostly play on Epic, so they go into the 12-hour range.
There's that famous blog post that one guy's been playing a game of Civilization 2 for like 12 years.
I think that is absolutely amazing.
I've read that.
It's a great...
I think that is one of the coolest things.
Isn't it the one where there's only like 3 nations left?
Yeah. There's 3 nations left, and it's basically 1984, because every time one of them rises, like, they get checked by the other 2 and they drop nukes on them. It's basically just this dystopian horror where they're entirely militarized, they're always at war, nobody ever makes any kind of substantial gain, they always fall back to the same pot, and it's repeated throughout this simulated history, and it's amazing.
Yeah,
it's amazing just that someone
would, awesome.
It's amazing that someone would just do that, if nothing else.
Yeah, it's a really great read.
So yeah, from my perspective of not having played any of the previous full-blooded Civilization games, Civilization 5 is one of my favorite PC games. I think it is the high watermark of that type of game, of the 4X. I think it's incredibly clever in the way it's designed. I think on the higher difficulty levels, some of the ways that they make the AI sort of scale in terms of the difficulty is kind of fucked. And I think some aspects of the diplomacy system are both arbitrary and sort of obviously mechanical. At the same time, just that game gives you that absolute sense of building that civilization up from the ground and playing it a specific way. Like my specific thing, the thing that I like is you build 4 cities and you play for culture. And my thing is that I like to have, I basically tend to end up with like my capital city, and I have all the wonders. My thing in that game is to build all the wonders. No one else will build wonders but me, which is one of the reasons why I like to play as the Egyptians, because they get plus 20% to wonder. It's actually kind of annoying because it makes me want to sort of try and play that game in different ways and like branch out a little bit. And sometimes I find it really difficult to actually sort of break from that pattern. Because there are some civilizations that are very specifically designed to do the build 4 cities and win with culture, like the Egyptians and the Indians, and then some civilizations it's completely different. Like some civilizations are naturally geared towards especially the AI, like Russia, they just pump out they build city after city after city, and they can absolutely surround you, and that can be fun. I've definitely played like that in the past, and it can be fun to play. But I've kind of got a little bit stuck in my mindset of wanting to go for the cultural victory. But that's my fault, not the game's fault, as far as I'm concerned.
The cultural and scientific victories are always so much more satisfying than the crushing military defeat.
Absolutely, I think playing that game militaristically is the most boring way to play that game, and partly because it's not particularly fun. Like they don't have a huge enough like variety in the units.
What is good is when you have one unit that survived like 5 or 6 battles and they keep ranking up and they keep that's really cool. You start to feel like, God, this guy's a fucking beast.
Yeah, that
it's like
is
freaking Rambo.
Yeah.
It is pretty awesome. I think they've been really smart about the way they've added to that game. I think Gods and Kings was an absolute triumph of an expansion, partly because, well, they added in a feature that people were kind of bummed that didn't make the jump from Civ 4 to Civ 5, which was religion. I think that was pretty well implemented. I am super interested in the way that they have shown some of the changes to how culture and social policies and things like that are going to work with the new expansion. So I'm super excited about that. But yeah, I've put maybe a decent amount of time with Civ 5 over the past few weeks, which probably like 40 hours. It's a great game to just sort of. This is the kind of the dirty secret about me with games like Civilization and Crusader Kings as well. Is I'm fucking lazy. So I love the games where I can just put my feet up. Like, you can play those games with just a mouse.
Yeah.
Like, you don't even fucking need to have a hand on the keyboard, so you can just have a beer, like, whatever. Just masturbate furiously, whatever you're into. Like,
Masturbate furiously to building like the Oracle of Delphi and the pyramids of
Yeah.
Egypt. Yeah,
Well,
getting
Yeah.
me all hot.
yeah.
All right, well that's your UK masturbation and strategy hour with Atlas.
So-
Do you have anything else you want to say about it, or?
No, I was pretty much. I hope to be able to come on this podcast in July and tell you all about Brave New World because I'm super excited for it.
I want a full on. I want you to like play a game of Crusader Kings or something and write a full narrative about what you did, like in the third person, like King Stefan acquired the counties in the year 1544 or something.
So I've nearly done that. I've kind of tried that. It's one of the fun things about that game. Is just sort of. So one of the really fun things about Crusader Kings 2 that I've found personally is, I mentioned it when I described the game before, is the game has a complete cutoff. Like, you can't play the game beyond 1454. So
Right.
one of my favorite things to do is to sort of imagine how my empire would sort of carry on through history and what would be the future ramifications. My favorite example was when I played as the Russian. I played as a Russian duke in Novgorod, and I became powerful enough that not only was I able to build the Russian Empire 600 years before it was actually built in history, but I was also strong enough to resist the invasion of the Mongols. Which basically meant that by 1450, I had a super powerful empire in Russia, which stretched from the Baltic Sea to the Black Sea and into Persia. So, like, if that existed in 1450, like, I actually spent the time to think about what would be the ramifications of that throughout history. It makes the Crimean War turn out a bit different. But yeah, if anybody actually had an interest in reading that would certainly be a great motivation for me to actually do it. My writing skills are fairly good, so I think I'd be able to do it well. I'd do that game justice.
Everyone on the podcast could take over the role of a duke or something.
Yeah, that game has multiplayer, and I really want to try that, but that would be weird. So actually, I have one thing to say while we're talking about Paradox's grand strategy games, is that I had the experience that a lot of people have when they play CK2 for the first time or whatever, which is kind of trying up a game and sort of being bewildered and a little bit overwhelmed by its systems, because I fired up March of the Eagles for the first time. That is the most recent Paradox game. It was released March this year. It's an entirely Napoleonic Wars based game, so the time period is not 400 years as it is in Crusader Kings 2. It's 15 years. And that game just sort of, I tried, like, the experience of playing CK2 doesn't translate to playing March of the Eagles. Like, they're such a different game. I think playing Europa Universalis free would be a better introduction. I think Crusader Kings 2 specifically is kind of its own different thing, because you have the system of playing as individual lords and dukes and kings, as opposed to just playing as countries. But yeah, I tried it for a little bit. I sort of tried to absorb as much information as I could, and then I fucked up somehow, and I was playing as the Ottomans, and I got steamrolled by Austria, and I was like, alright, try this again at some point in the future, I guess. Turn it off for now and go back to Amalur, I guess. But I want to spend more time with March of the Eagles, because I know that I can get into those Paradox games, and I know that when I do that, they are super rewarding. But I think Crusader Kings 2 might just be my thing. I think that game is a little bit special in the way that it handles its
We have what looks like J. Jonah Jameson in a rabbit suit here. Akbar. Is he actually here?
I need pictures of Spider-Man. Quick!
Yep, he's here.
He's here.
J. Jonah Jameson, you went there. Hey, how's it going?
That's what it looked like to me.
Akbar with a very late addition to the podcast. Akbar, what you got?
What do I got?
What you been playing? What you been doing? What you been watching?
The story of a wealthy family who lost everything.
Don't tell me I'm torrenting it at, well, not right at this very second, but when we get done with this, I will be torrenting it again. So
It's.
I don't want any spoilers.
I'm not going to. I'm just going to say it's a bit of a slow start. I thought it was a little depressing in the beginning, but once that show gets rolling, like I think around episode 4, that's where it really picks up. It starts getting good again.
Okay, that's enough.
Yep.
Games.
Have we talked about Call of Juarez?
A little bit, yeah.
A little bit at the beginning. Yeah. What do you got?
I'm digging that game. I played like a little bit of it. Really digging, because like most Western games nowadays try to go for like a really super self-serious kind of look at it anymore. It's really nice to get this really romanticized, like one cowboy running in and just gunning down like a billion bandits. You know. My only problem is, I think it's maybe because my limitations on my because I'm playing on the Xbox. Like your character needs to be snappier, in my opinion. I need to feel faster, I guess, is my problem. You know, I want to be able to just run through that and just gun down everyone with like no problems, because it feels like an arcade shooter, and it doesn't feel like the camera or the aiming really lets that happen. Also, the dueling mechanics are awesome, but they're a bit confusing to understand at first. I'm not really entirely sure what I'm supposed to be doing with my hand over the gun, because sometimes I'll get it right, sometimes I won't. But other than that, I'm really enjoying that game so far.
What we asked was, does it feel... We mentioned that the live arcade release is kind of becoming the equivalent of like the straight-to-DVD movie. Does it feel like this could have been a full disc-based $60 release, or does it feel kind of not necessarily lacking, but kind of light in other areas?
Well, I mean, I don't know, because really all there is to that game is the shooting and kind of the story and the wit about the story itself. You know, I don't think
There are
what?
there are plenty of $60 retail games that come out with less than that. So,
exactly. That game actually seems like it's pretty long. I mean, there's 14 missions. Took me 3 hours to do about 5 or so. So it's a decent amount of time. I don't know if I would have paid $60 for it though. That's the thing. Because
is it a technical thing? Is it because it's sort of lower production end on the graphics, or is it just more of a?
No, that game looks great. It really does. The cell shading looks really nice. It's got a nice style to it, but it kind of keeps a semi-realistic feel. It feels
No, go ahead. Sorry.
It feels like a graphic novel at times. It's just really sharp.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. That I kind of get the impression that's a little bit of a deviation for the Call of Juarez series, because my impression of Bound in Blood was that it was pretty much a sort of straight up just sort of presented like a traditional Western. It didn't have its own graphical flair.
Well, I mean, it's still very Westerny,
Yeah, sure.
They go out of their way to make it look like that, but it just has this nice look to it. In some ways, it reminds me of the old Sergio. Oh God, I'm not going to say his name and embarrass myself.
Sergio Leone.
Leone, yeah. The old Good, Bad, the Ugly posters. It kind of has that kind of look to the entire game.
Okay.
Not as drastic, but it's kind of there at parts.
You, sir, just sold a video game. because I love that stuff. And the posters are great, but specifically the Sergio Leone westerns are some of my favorite films of all time.
It's not as much that. It's more of the Americanized version of the West. It's very old school, lone cowboy runs in, just guns down dudes.
More Tom Ford than Sergio Leone, maybe.
Yeah, but the style of Sergio Leone is there.
Yeah, okay.
I'm really enjoying it so far, but then again, I absolutely love westerns.
Yeah, I think we've pretty much established that this podcast is pro-Western.
Yeah.
To be sure.
But it is just the best part about this game, and what I love it is just a hyper romanticized version of the West.
Yeah.
Like Indians, cowboys, bandits, everything like that. Floozies in bars, what have you, shootouts in bars. It's just fun, and it mixes things up enough to where what should be really repetitive stays kind of fun.
Right.
Yeah.
I kind of asked the same. Excuse me. I kind of asked this same question of Ghost, but I'll pose it to you as well. Do you think for somebody who hasn't played any of the Call of Juarez games but likes westerns like I do, do you think it'd be worth actually picking up this game, or should I just go take the shrink wrap off my Xbox 360 copy of Bound in Blood?
I have never played any of the other Call of Juarez games.
Oh, okay. Well, never mind then.
Yeah, I never really had any draw except for this one. I don't know what it was.
So what specifically made you buy it? Like, because this game seemed so under the radar to me in the way it came out. Like, what drew you to it then?
Really, like I said, it's that hyper-romanticized version of the West, you know? It's just like, Billy the Kid's in it. You're involved in the shootout at OK Corral, you know? It's just...
Wait, it actually has, like, people from history in it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But that's kind of the draw, you know? It's not, like, making its own legend. It's kind of placing itself in actual Western legend. And I don't know if you've seen the quick look. They talk about the Kernels of Truth stuff where they actually give you some, like, insight to what's going on in the West. Well, like some of the stories, like the truth or whatever. But yeah, and you have this character.
What actually happened is
may or may not be embellishing his own position. Yeah, exactly.
Well, I think I might actually watch the quick look and maybe think about checking this out.
It's a great game. I think so.
Between you and Ghost, you may have sold me.
All right, awesome.
Also, I might just go and watch Once Upon a Time in the West tomorrow because goddamn,
yeah, dude,
that is my favorite film of all time. I think. If I had to say, it would be short.
I would actually say for me it's Good, Bad, and the Ugly, but that's mainly just because I saw that so young.
Yeah, sure.
But yeah, great film.
All right, Believer, you got any 3DS stuff you want to talk about?
Wait. Riddenback's hosting?
Yeah. It's been a real Twilight Zone episode, man.
Oh man.
Week.
We had Ghost at first, and he left, and then Atlas dropped out for a little while, and then you came.
I had some plasmid stuff to take care of.
Okay.
Yeah.
Second time making that joke.
3DS. I really like playing my 3DS. Did you, Atlas? What games do you have on your 3DS thus far?
Yes. So the reason that we really wanted to pick this up is that I actually last week bought a 3DS. It was a bit of an impulse purchase, and it's always exciting getting a new system. And I think one of the reasons why it took me a while to come around to the idea of buying a 3DS is to sort of the general feeling that there was maybe a little bit of a lack of real system seller games, at least if you're not particularly into sort of more niche stuff. Like I'm not a huge JRPG guy in general, and I think that's where a lot of genres like that really is
Atlas.
one of the main. Yeah,
Atlas seems to be one of the companies really supporting the company other than Nintendo really supporting the 3DS.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, you just kind of freaked me out there because that's also my name. So
no, Atlas the company.
Yeah.
Atlas, not Atlas.
Yeah, and I've never played an Atlas game. Like actually, that's not true. I played about half an hour of Persona 4, but whatever. So I might actually get into that stuff now that I've got a 3DS. But for the time being, I have been playing a ton of Fire Emblem. Which was probably the main reason why I wanted to pick it up. I have played the first 3 worlds of Super Mario 3D Land, and I have played about the first, I don't know, maybe sort of, I suppose, stage and a half, if you want to call them stages, of the game that has come out in my country as Pull Blocks, but as our American friends will know as Pushmo.
Pushmo.
I have played some Fire Emblem Awakening. It was actually pretty easy. I thought I'd actually finally gotten good at strategy games, and I got to that stage where the game was like, nope, we just made those first few levels easy, and now we're going to kick your ass.
Yes.
And it did.
Fire Emblem does. I think the thing that Fire Emblem does is it preys on It's kind of like that XCOM thing where it preys on and punishes. Complacency and sort of on not being prepared. So one of my biggest. I am playing that game classic. So once
I am too.
Yeah, I think
I lose a character, I'm like, oh my god, am I going to restart this level or not?
Well, I have on multiple occasions restarted, but there are also plenty of occasions where I've lost characters. And to be honest, most of the times I've lost characters, it's been because they've introduced a new character with, or not specifically a new character, but a new type of character. I don't necessarily have a great feel for what their strengths and weaknesses are, and I end up putting them in a situation where they just get ganged up on and just gone. So the first time I got a Wyvern rider, one of the sort of the mounted dragon.
The Pegasus lady.
Pegasus lady.
I lost her the first turn.
I was exactly the same way. I lost. So there's the dancer, and the thing about the dancer is that she doesn't attack, but she makes it so that your friendly units can attack again because she dances for them. I lost her on her first turn, and the first turn I got a dark mage. I think he died on the second turn. Yeah. So
Atlas?
that is, yeah.
No, I'm talking about the company Atlas.
Oh,
Their
damn
games.
You need to stop with that. You're freaking me out.
They do kind of the same thing where they let you get comfortable with the game and introduce something completely new.
Yeah.
And expect you to get a grasp on it really quick. That's actually one of the things I liked about Nocturne, the PS2 game, Nocturne, not the PC game.
Yeah.
It's freaking difficult. And so is Fire Emblem Awakening to some extent, at least to me, thus far, because it keeps throwing loopholes and things.
Yeah, it's also fairly symptomatic of the genre in general because you can make comparisons between the turn-based combat of Fire Emblem and something like XCOM, and I know for me personally the first mission where you encounter chrysalids was such a disaster that I was playing on Iron Man, so I had to start my whole campaign over because that mission was because I didn't know how to deal with chrysalids. I put my soldiers in exactly the wrong positions, and they all got turned to zombies, and I cried so hard because that was 4 hours down the drain. But yeah,
I haven't played much XCOM. I'll have to get to that. But in Fire Emblem, the worst thing that's happened to me thus far, the mission where you find out, when Crom finds out that Martha's a girl, because the player pretty much figured it out. The mission right after that, I lost. I won it, but I won it with only 4 characters left.
Jeez. That's pretty dramatic. I think the most that I've actually lost on a single battle and have not reloaded was like 2. Yeah, that game does have some difficulty spikes, definitely. But there is definitely a lot of time when it is relatively easy. I think it's also a game that you can grind to victories to a certain extent. There's no limit on the number of battles because there's a specific item that you can buy called the Reeking Box, which reveals it basically summons enemies to the map that you can then battle if you want to sort of grind for experience. But yeah, I think that game is fantastic. I think just in the past couple of days I've got to really what is the point of having relationships between the characters and getting them to the point where they actually develop S-rank relationships. I'm not sure if we should get into it because I think there's a little bit of an element of surprise to it, at least there was for me, that I maybe don't want to give away for other people who... So, I mean, for Americans, it might seem like I'm incredibly late to the Fire Emblem party, but it's only been out for about 3 or 4 weeks in the UK, so... Yeah. It's actually only relatively recently that I've even had the opportunity to play it.
I only just now got it as well.
Yeah, so I don't know how widely that game has been played. Maybe people are waiting for a couple of other really promising games for the 3DS to come out before they buy it, and then Fire Emblem will be one of the first games they purchase. But I think a lot of the ideas, a lot of the narrative, a lot of that stuff is so cool. And the fact that it's built onto a system which is some pretty solid turn-based combat, like that game was everything that I thought it would be. Like when it was being sold to me as like a top shelf, like absolute top tier portable strategy game, like that was what I was expecting, and that is what I've got, and that is awesome.
How do you feel about the cutscenes? They're great. They're animated well, but
they are.
I think some of them are dumb.
I think some of them are fairly dumb. I'm generally enjoying it more than I was to start with. I think the story takes a good turn. that I felt pretty positive about, which again I don't really want to go into. But yeah.
All right. Well, Super Mario 3D Land. I know Believer had a few things he wanted to say about that. I could talk about. Well, I haven't played Mario 3D Land yet, but I'm a huge Mario fan. So
I liked that game a lot up until the point. I'm towards the end of the special worlds. Sorry to spoil it for you, Atlas, if you didn't know about those already. But once you beat the game, another 8 worlds open up.
Oh, okay.
Are they of the gnarly, tubular, radical naming convention, or
What do you mean?
in Mario Super Mario World, the special world levels just had names like Awesome and Radical and.
No, it's just Special 1, Special 2, Special 3.
Oh, that's sad.
Yeah, I get the
Real
further
creative.
you get into those levels, like the later ones have this little purple dude that pops up, and he chases you throughout the level, and they cut your time down to 30 seconds. For one level, it's cool, but they keep doing this particular trick, and I'm really starting to dislike the game. I liked it a whole lot until they started keep doing this over and over and over again. Most of the game is really good though, and it's a Mario game, so I don't really feel a great drive to beat it if I'm not having any more fun with it. Have you actually played it? Or
I have not. I am probably going to get a DS in the next or a 3DS in the next couple weeks.
yeah, I mean it's a really fun game. I've certainly gotten my time out of it. Just getting to that part is really annoying.
So where I'm at in the game is that I'm 3 worlds in. So I've probably, especially if it turns out there are, since you said that there were 8 worlds after actually beating the base game, then I've certainly got a lot more to see. But I can definitely speak to the incident of there being a specific level design that sort of trips you up a little bit, because in the 3rd world there's a stage with forced scrolling and some quite specific timing on some platforming jumps, and I died about 10 times on that one. So I think the base game and the base level design is really, really cool, and it's actually the one game that I've sort of insisted on playing with the 3D turned all the way up. Originally, it was making me go a bit cross-eyed. I am short-sighted, so I wear glasses, so I thought that might have been part of it.
All right.
I've gotten used to it, and I think I think it's kind of necessary, because I think that was kind of how the game was designed. Like, just in terms, a lot of the view is in terms of like it's advantageous for you to be able to time and sort of position your jumps if you want to correctly jump on an enemy. If you have a better sense of the depth of where it is on the screen.
I don't know about it being necessary. I've played almost all of the game with the 3D off. The only game I've played for more than 10 minutes with the 3D on is Etrian Odyssey 4, and that's because most of it is menu driven. Even then, everything looks blurry to me. Most of the time it gives me a headache, or I can't really tell what's going on. One of my eyes is worse than the other. That probably has something to do with it.
I'm the same way, but my lenses correct that. So
I don't usually game with glasses on.
I think he's telling you should game with glasses on.
I think maybe I'm telling you should game with glasses on. I can recommend it.
I hate glasses. Even then, I doubt I would play the 3D on. I just don't like the 3D, and I never felt the need for it.
Fair enough. I think maybe necessary is the wrong way to put it. I think maybe what I'm really getting at is that it's one of the few times that I've actually found the 3D to be in any way useful, and also sort of I felt like it added something to it. Like it was actually cool, regardless of its use, to be able to sort of get a better perspective on where the enemies were in the level in terms of the actual depth. I'm totally excited to play more of that game. I think it does some things that only Mario games can do, which is partly one of the things that only Mario games can do, with some exceptions, is make me like platformers. Because I am not
jump on Goombas.
Yes, that too.
I grew up with platformers, so I tend to really enjoy a good platformer.
Yeah, I love a good platformer.
I kind of grew up with platformers as well, because my first console was a Mega Drive, and obviously, or the Genesis, and obviously a ton of the most beloved games on the Mega Drive / Genesis were platformers, because that was where when the era where platformers were king. I, however, have never actually beaten a Super Mario game I don't think.
Same here, dude. I've never beaten a Super Mario game.
Actually, you know what? I must have beaten Super Mario 64 because that was one of the most mind-blowing games of my childhood. I must have.
I never beat that. I played Super Mario World all the time, and I never beat it. I never beat Super Mario 64. I never beat the new Mario games. I never beat the one on the 3DS. I played all of them, but I've never gotten around.
I might have beaten the Galaxy games if I owned a Wii.
I beat the Galaxy games, but I don't really count
Galaxy games are so good.
Yeah,
I have a Wii.
Barely count that as Mario for some reason.
Why?
Because it's so different from like regular Mario in every way.
No, really, it never felt that different to me. It followed the Super Mario 64 structure of here's a world, jump in it, go do a challenge and get a star. My problem with Mario Galaxy isn't a problem that most people have. I get a little bit of motion sickness from that.
I can see that.
I'm the only person that has ever complained about it, and sometimes I don't get it. I've played, a fair bit of Mario Galaxy, but I doubt I'll ever beat it just because of that. And I'm the guy who played the Marathon Durandal port on 360, which virtually everybody got motion sickness from. And
I didn't get motion sickness from that. I don't know what those people were talking about. No.
Yeah, that was crazy. But that game does move really fast.
Okay. Well, I guess that takes care of your daily dose of Mario. The only real news, at least that I saw lately, apart from the obvious Xbox reveal, which we already did.
Wait, what's up with the Xbox?
There's a new one.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, the X
sort of X-Bone.
Yeah,
whatever. That's crazy.
Yeah, they're re-releasing the original Xbox. Didn't you hear about that?
Oh, finally.
Yeah.
So I can play Blinks again?
And Fusion Frenzy.
Oh, dude, and check this out. Brute Force 2.
Oh, shit.
A man can dream. But other than that, Curiosity, which I guess Akbar wanted to talk about. Akbar, what you got about Curiosity?
Oh, it's cracked. They beat it. It's open.
And
secret has been revealed.
And the secret is that the guy who tapped the last tap is going to be the god of Molyneux's next game. Is that right?
Yeah, he's going to be the god of all the gods in Molyneux's next god game.
Black and White 3.
Goddess. I don't really know.
Actually, Blue and Green will be.
Oh, okay. But yeah, so he's like the god. So he gets to set the morals and like the basis of like how all the other gods can treat like I'm not really sure how Goddess works. But yeah, so he's like the basis for all of us, I guess.
My question about this is how much of a leash is Molyneux going to let him have?
I hope
because if it's what if he's like, okay, everybody gets rocket launchers?
Yeah. Yeah.
But no, actually, intrinsically, the game is about not having a rocket. No, fuck it, everybody gets rocket launchers. I don't care.
I hope that's how this works. He has actually already said that he's going to take advantage of it. Like, he's going to be, like, a dick about it at times, which I am totally on board with.
This is great if he's just, like, a huge frat boy, and it's like, I want chicks with big tits, I want Ferraris, I want rocket launchers, and beer.
Only lesbian races.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think that's cool. I mean, that has made me more interested in this game than anything else could potentially do. God games are alright, but the concept of having you playing a God game and then having some kid who's like, I think he's like 17, playing his own God game, and we're all just the little people running around.
His real-world God game.
Exactly, and we're just the little people running around in his God game. I just want him to be interviewed like at the end of each week, just to see his like mental progress, whether he just becomes into this benevolent, great, glorious leader,
that will happen,
or this horrible dictator.
This is what will happen. Will happen.
I just want to see. They need to make a documentary out of this. That's just what I'm saying. I want to see.
Molyneux he's just the best, isn't he?
He is.
He totally is. I'm completely on board with that.
The power of a god, and not just like jokingly, like literally, he gave the power of a god to this 17-year-old kid, and now we all get to see what's going to happen.
Some random guy.
I know.
Yeah, in my head, I think the best possible circumstance you could have out of this is that if there's a pantheon of gods, like with proper fantasy names, and the god who stands above all them is like just in the game called like Dave,
Jason or
Like,
something.
His name is Brian Henderson.
all right, that sounds like a name that somebody from Edinburgh would have.
Brian Henderson sits atop the throne of Mount Olympus, king of
He's
the
gonna
gods.
go by the name B-Dog in the game.
He's
Yeah.
from Edinburgh, Scotland.
Yeah, which is an awesome city, by the way.
I
It's
would.
a great town.
This sounds like the best possible disaster anyone could have hoped for.
Yeah, I think they couldn't have possibly had a better resolution to this. I think
I know.
Oh, the only way it could have been better is if it was like Cliffy B or somebody, or Miyamoto or something.
No, I
No,
really would have liked it if it was just some prisoner in a penitentiary, or a person in an insane asylum who just got his like daily iPad limit.
The people in the insane asylum are all playing Wii games.
I mean, there has to be some limit on what he can actually put in the game, because he can't like just turn around and say, "Okay, the god of this world is Master Chief." Like,
Well,
I think
no,
there actually has to be.
I hope he does. Oh, I hope he does.
I don't think it's like actually like that. I think he gets to set the rules or like the basis for everyone else's play styles.
Right, yeah. But
So,
again,
so
this,
he's more of a ruler. He doesn't get to say, okay, all the trees are just a big rack of tits now, or anything.
yeah,
like
I guess it's just it seems like it just seems like they kind of haven't been clear on what that meant. I mean, you don't like go to just
Wait a
random
second.
person-
Wait a second. A Peter Molyneux project hasn't made itself clear to you? No.
But I mean, no matter what though, you have to respect this idea.
Absolutely.
I don't
There-
know if respect is the right word, but
Yeah, more
No,
like
I completely respect this because you couldn't do this in anything besides video games. Which
This is
exactly
Yeah.
What
this
do
is
you-
incredibly ballsy.
you couldn't do this unless you were
you couldn't.
Peter Molyneux.
yeah.
Exactly. I am a huge Peter Molyneux fan and supervisor because he's made like some of my favorite games of all time. I think Black and White was hugely influential on me as a kid, back in the day or whatever.
Also,
I hate that expression, but
he gets money as the game goes on.
yeah,
Right.
that's the real curious thing is that he said that Molyneux said that it would be a certain small percentage of the game's proceeds would.
Go ahead.
Now, Project Goddess was a Kickstarter game. Am I right in that?
I don't really know.
I don't know. I feel like I've seen it. I've seen Kickstarter pages, so it seems like there's already like an allotment of money for that game that they can cut him in on. But whether it's
It's a Kickstarter.
yeah, I'm not entirely sure on how this is going to work out. It might end up just being like a token thing. But I
I
love
think-
I just
I think
love-
he gets a certain percentage of every sale. So if
Yeah.
more people buy it, he just gets more money.
yeah. But what's a certain percentage? Like if it's 5,
No,
that you
it's
know,
probably like 0.5% or something.
yeah.
It's probably less than that.
Yeah. I mean, Peter Molyneux says in the video that he will have fame, he will have wealth, and I think that's a little. It's the most Peter Molyneux video of all time in the most glorious way.
So what happens after this game gets released? Does this kid just give up on school? You know, he just drops out of college and everything. Says, "I'm a god now. Why do I have to do
Goes
this?"
buys and buys a trunk full of illegal drugs.
Yeah, well, if I don't know if he's counting on the revenues of a Peter Molyneux game to sustain him, he might want to stay in school a little bit longer.
Yeah, but like, could you think about the responsibility on him? Like, what if one day he decides, "I don't want to play this game anymore"? Like, what happens? Does that mean this game enters like this dark age where our god has just left us?
No, he'll like restart Curiosity, and this time it's a circle,
no.
it's a sphere you have
No,
to
no,
uncover.
no. I really like
That
the idea of God just leaving, and then everyone is just kind of left in this dark age.
God
That-
just leaves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And his 17-year-old gets tired of it like 2 weeks in.
Yeah.
Peter Molyneux's like, what?
And he's left a world to eternal darkness and suffering and sort of.
And then
It's like, fuck you bitches, I got my mom's Volvo for the weekend. God is out!
and that is how Castlevania Lords of Shadow starts.
I am on board with this, guys. I am totally.
And also breaking news, I understand that Phoenix Comic-Con is being evacuated due to fire. So
Oh,
Right now?
yeah, right now.
the Phoenix rose again in the middle of the convention.
Yeah. Dark. This is the most sick Dark Phoenix cosplay ever.
Yeah, it's really, really good. Like, a bunch of people just died. Completely incinerated.
Well, I guess that is probably going to do it for this week's Giant Bomb Community Podcast. Does anybody else have anything else? Any last hits they want to get out there? Akbar, you came in late.
So who actually is supposed to be your avatar?
I have, honest to God, no idea. I was digging through the wiki one night, and I guess this is from like a really fucked up Mahjong game. And this is one of the enemies, and I just decided, well, this is my new avatar forever. Because it's...
I like that. So basically, the image I'm looking at is planning my Chinese tile-based, game-based demise. That's what you're saying.
Pretty much.
I'm pretty excited about that.
I can't remember. There's Chicken George Washington is another one. If you want to look into the things, that'd probably be the easiest to find because that's the only one I remember the name to. But yeah, there's a lot of weird ones. There's one with a guy that has just like a horse growing out of his head. Chicken George Washington is a chicken with George Washington's head. There's a bunch of other weird stuff, but yeah.
Well, we need to make sure that Akbar's avatar is used in the video, in the promo for this podcast, so that everybody can see what we're talking about, because it is glorious.
Thank you.
I hope everyone can see it. Yeah, that's going to do it for the Giant Bomb Community Podcast. I am Red and Black. Your guests this week were Atlas, Justin Believer, Akbar the Great, and briefly Ghost. So we'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
Peace.
Is this the real life? Is this just fantasy? Caught in a landslide? No escape from reality. Open your eyes. Look up to the skies and see. I'm just a poor boy. I need no sympathy, 'cause I'm easy come, easy go, little high, little low. Any way the wind blows doesn't really matter to me. To me. Mama just killed a man, put a gun against his head, pulled my trigger, now he's dead. Mama, life had just begun, but now I've gone and thrown it all away. Mama, oh, didn't mean to make you cry. If I'm not back again this time tomorrow, carry on, as if nothing really matters. My time has come. Sends shivers down my spine. Body's aching all the time. Goodbye, everybody. I've got to go. Gotta leave you all behind and face the truth. Mama, oh. I don't want to die. I sometimes wish I'd never been born at all. I see a little silhouette of a man. Scaramouche, Scaramouche, will you do the fandango? Thunderbolt and lightning, very, very frightening me. Galileo, 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 Galileo Figaro. I'm just a poor boy, nobody loves me.
He's just a poor boy from a poor family, staring his head from his monstrosity.
Easy come, easy go, will you let me go? Miss Mala,
No, we will not let you go.
let me go. Miss Mala,
Let you go.
let me go.
No, we will not let you go.
Let me go.
Let you go.
Let me go.
Let you go. Let me go.
Mamma mia, mamma mia, mamma mia, let me go. Beelzebub has a devil put aside for me, for me, for me. So you think you could stone me and spit in my eye? So you think you could love me and leave me to die? Oh, baby, don't do this to me, baby. Just gotta get out. Just gotta get out. Right out of here. Nothing really matters. Anyone can see. Nothing really matters. Nothing really matters to me. Anyway, the wind blows. Anyway, the wind blows.